Hello, thank you, Nihal. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Today, I'm asking, what makes a city a world-leading creative city? But before we do this, we need to look at the big picture. Most of us live in cities, and in fact, by 2050, 70% of the world's population will live in cities. So what does that mean? It means that urbanization and rapid urbanization is a growing trend and is a trend to stay. And what does the world look like today? Well, the world is a complicated place, and we know it's changing at the speed of light. Geopolitics are shifting, artificial intelligence is still an unknown, climate crisis is having devastating impact. And despite having more information and being more connected than ever, social media is causing stress and we feel lonely. So no wonder we feel anxious. So within that context, a legitimate question for us to ask is, where does culture fit into this picture? Well, the fact is, culture does not exist in a vacuum. It's woven in our lives, in our cities, in our communities. And more cities are realizing that culture can have a deep and profound impact in our societies. So this is us, 45 cities across 6 continents. We come together and we have a mission. We're civic leaders with one mission. We believe that culture is a key ingredient in urban policy. What does that mean? That means that we believe that culture is not just a nice to have or cute, something that can be easily cut when the budgets are tight. We believe that culture is essential in a city. And in fact, we say, in order to be a successful global city in the 21st century, you cannot do it without culture. So what do? We share challenges, because we share a lot of the challenges as big cities. And we also share solutions. In fact, sometimes I refer to us as an IP-free zone. We nick each other's best ideas. That's a good idea, I'll have it. And why do we do this? Because we do believe that culture can contribute to a city's priorities in all the ranges of priorities. We call it the golden thread. What do we mean by the golden thread? We mean that culture boosts jobs, regenerates neighborhoods, boosts tourism, it's good for our health and our communities, it gives us identity. I don't need to tell you all this, you probably know all this. What I want to do now is look a bit beyond this, at each of those aspects, and look below the waterline, because we cannot take culture for granted. So where are the challenges? Where are those common challenges? Let's look at them one by one. Let's start with jobs. Well, we know that most jobs in the creative industries are in small businesses, freelancers, self-employed, probably, most of you in the audience. So cities need to adapt on how to help small businesses and self-employed. And they're doing that with creative visas, with microcredits and microgrants, with support with space. So they need to look how they support that workforce. What else do we know? We know that, ready or not, artificial intelligence is here to stay. And it's moving really rapidly. It will transform the way we look at work. So what do we need to do? As cities, we have a role around regulation, but also supporting what are the skills that we need for the future. Can you guess what the skills that we need for the future are? What do employers say? What are the top 4 skills? Let's look at them. Problem solving, which is creative thinking, interpersonal skills, motivation and empathy. All things that you get when you are creative. So we need to look at creativity not just as jobs, but also as competence, as skills that will give us the skills for the future, for the jobs of the future. There's a fantastic, shocking statistic that says 65% of young people will have jobs that have not been invented. Right? So most likely those jobs will involve AI. But most likely those jobs will involve this. So I think cities need to have this competence. Look at creativity as a way of infusing that across the education piece. Let's look at regeneration now. It's one of those that is like often victims of our own success. We all know the story of artists that move into a cheap area and then they make it desirable, prices go up, and then what happens? The artists need to move out and be displaced. So more and more cities are now looking at how to hardwire affordability in cities. And this is providing affordable workspace for artists in perpetuity, forever. Not meanwhile space, not short leases, but affordable space accessible to creatives in perpetuity. And cities are looking at new models, creative land trusts, and I think Manchester is looking at that model, creative enterprise zones. How can we hardwire affordability in cities? Let's look at tourism now. In London, 4 out of 5 tourists say the main reason they visit is culture. But what's happening? There's over-tourism. Cities like Barcelona, my hometown, and Amsterdam and Venice are suffering from over-tourism. So what is the role of culture in making that a more gentle impact into our cities? How can we attract tourists in other bits of the city, in other parts of the city, beyond the city centre and beyond the main attractions? That's something that a lot of cities are now thinking. And finally, we know that being creative makes us healthier, happier, makes us live longer. And why is that? Because it's human connection. Ultimately, culture is about human connection. That's why we're here. We're here to connect. We're here to make connections between us. And of course, it's about identity. And in a world that most people drink the same coffee and wear the same trainers, having a distinctive and authentic identity for cities, that's really important. And we know that culture can do this with depth and sophistication. And finally, I just want to finish with a quote, which is about imagination. That's the other superpower that culture and creativity have. We can use culture, creativity to reimagine and imagine our cities, ourselves, our cities, our world. I think there's a panel later on today about reimagining cities through creativity. So, to finalize, what have we learned? That in order to be a creative city, you've got to realize all those things. It's a golden thread. It's human connection. It's a distinctive identity that distinguishes you from other cities. It's an economic powerhouse. And it's a way to reimagine the future. Thank you very much. Have a good day.